On Ricky. And here we go, Ricky. Over to
Thank
you.
you very much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another segment of the Alliance of Change press conference. I want to say a special good afternoon to our media and to our panelists and to those who are viewing us live. On our panelists today, we have some statement will be read by Mr. Kamal Ramdatan, our leader, Alliance of Change, and myself, Vice Chairman of the Alliance of Change, and Ms. Juita Finance, also our Assistant General Secretary. We have in our company here Mr. David Patterson, National Executive Member, and Mr. Vincent Adams, also Executive Member, to answer any question that comes around the sector of oil and gas and other issues of power. I wanted to first invite our leader, Mr. Kamal Ramdatan, to read a statement, and then I will do mine and Juita last. Mr. Kamraj?
Yeah, I'd want you to put on your volume because I'm hardly hearing you. All right, this will be the press release that I have. It's again on public security, and it goes thus. The upsurge of murders and domestic violence and smuggling of even chicken and bears as evidence in the headlines of all newspapers, and even more recently of cattle rustling in the cattle rearing areas of the country, which has not yet hit the headlines, must be overbearing for Guyanese. It is damaging to the psyche of our people, just like the cost of living. And as a singular factor, it has stimulated a new exodus of our skilled, professional, and entrepreneurial. This is only too self-evident when so many teachers, nurses, doctors, and academics are leaving for greener and less predatory pastures. Though inheriting a revenue stream vastly superior to anything ever in the history of Guyana from the coalition government, the PPP government seems to have no idea as to how to use this revenue stream to better improve our security sector. Rather, it has left it politicized and corrupted. Further, it has not any desire for transparency or accountability because of its continuing lockdown of the operations of the Parliamentary Oversight Committee on the Public Sector. This most important Oversight Committee, established pursuant to Article 119D of the Constitution, has responsibility for examining the policies and administration of the entities in the security sector, namely the disciplined forces of Guyana. This committee, under standing orders of the National Assembly, can enlist experts to help in its oversight, has inherent powers to call for questioning of such persons as the Commissioner of Police and his officers, and even consent for their papers and records, with all done in camera to ensure accountability. This committee must be allowed to do its work. The security sector must have the involvement of the parliamentarians selected since 2020. Its non-operation speaks volume as to what the Jagdeo-led government wants to hide from its members, especially the opposition members. By the government's reprehensible destruction of this security guardrail, Guyanese will have to experience, without explanation, further crises in our national and public security. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kamraj, the leader of the Alliance of Change, for that statement. I'll now do mine. One moment. All right. The Alliance of Change responds to the recent threat to the logging truck driver that was published in Kaiser News yesterday. That is April 4th, April 11. The Answer Change is deeply concerned about the recent threats made to lock truck drivers by the Guyana Forestry Commission, published in the Kaito newspaper 2024-4011. The AFC believes this is a reckless threat made by the GFC, that they haven't examined the issues clearly, but rather taken a yardstick approach to the matter. Truck drivers hired to do a job, the persons loading the trucks is the forestry concession holder, who determines the load capacity. The SFA, the State Forest Allocation Holders, will take into consideration the number of cubic meters of logs to be carried or the lumber to be carried. It must be noted, however, that the maximum load capacity of one truck is 30 cubic meters. That is for the wood truck that was shown in the picture by Kaito News and the Scammer brand. And an average load for the model, for other models of trucks is 25 cubic meters per load. Another factor that the GFC missed is the cost to transport timber from the forest, which is in most cases is more than half of the expense on a given load. For example, if you transport 30 cubic meters of green hardlock from 40 miles to Stano District in Region 7, cost the SFA holder 600,000 per truckload. The standard price you will get for green hard at the time is 40,000 per cubic meter on the highway, as a linear zigzag highway. On an average, some companies pay less. This means the sale of this load will cost $1.2 million. Other expenses such as loading, extraction, loans, labor costs, rations, fuel, and lubricants will be have to deduct also on that remaining $600,000. So if we use an argument that trucks are overload and reduce it to, let's say, hypothetically 20 cubic meters, which is a container load as a normal, automatically your cost for trucking alone is going to 3/4 of the expense. Hence, the less cubic meter you load on the truck, the higher your transport cost, which means less profit. Therefore, you cannot jump and make a trade without understanding the issue and struggles of the SFA holder or truck drivers in this case. This sector has been this sector has seen a downward trajectory since the government took office, and the sector has been taking a hit without any compensation from the government. It takes the hits from the pandemic, flooding, drought, which is now, the recent threat from Venezuela, labor shortage due to the 10 days worker, oil and gas sector, which is consuming a large section of the labor force. And here again, we are adding another threat. The AFC understands the 300 million pledged by government with the 600 million from the Morara Bank. But how many of the 450 SFA operators benefited? The figure is 11, as stated in the budget speech by the senior finance minister. If the government have problems with road, then they need to build strong and better quality of roads. So if it does not hinder the productivity, because at the end of the year, they will blame you for the poor performance of your concession or your business. Furthermore, we urge the Guyana Forestry Commission to engage in constructive dialogue with stakeholders to address any grievances or concern that may exist within the industry. Collaboration and transparency are essentials in promoting sustainable forest practices and fostering a conducive environment for all stakeholders. The AFC remain committed to advocating for a forestry sector that operates with integrity, accountability, and respect for the rights of all individuals involved. We will continue to monitor the situation closely and work towards ensuring the justice is served. And I also wanted to add another piece of our Natural Resources Sectoral Committee in Parliament that was held today. And I really want to express my dissatisfaction. I haven't prepared a statement because from that meeting we came to this press conference. And we are trying our best to have the media to be part of this. Again, the EPA and ExxonMobil has been absent, and we are getting a consecutive letter of excuses from these organizations. We are now going to be executing, which we have to get the clerk of the National Assembly to address us to the next step that we should be taking. We voted in that sector, in that committee, we voted in that committee to ensure that we instruct the clerk to write these companies about the constant excuse that they're making to attend Parliament. This Parliament is not a cake shop. And if the government believes that this is a cake shop and are having the relevant agencies to come to us, to the sectoral committee, then we're not going to take it lightly. What we're going to be doing, we're going to execute the standing order, where we're going to summon these agencies directly to come to Parliament. And Camarades, we will need your guys' legal opinion on this matter. Further, there's a delay. Tactics which we suspect that this meeting has been conducted, but again, the minister is not here to answer questions. We had about 15 questions to ask on the gas to show plant and the recent audit that was, or the current audit that's going on, and we can't get these questions to answer. So these are some changes that we're going to make, and we have to keep pressing the government, and we want to make it quite clear that the Alliance for Change is dissatisfied in the way that the government is operating when it comes to this committee. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Jurita has joined us, and I will now ask her to read her statement. Jurita, please go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'll be addressing specifically the Alliance to Change first statement as it regards the teachers' struggle right now, as we all know, and also collectively as it regards wages and salaries and employment, particularly in the public sector within our country. At this pivotal moment in our nation's journey, as teachers across the country take to the streets in a resounding call for fair wages, we are confronted with the stark reality of economic disparity that plagues our society. The impassioned cries of our educators serves as a poignant reminder of the systemic inequalities that persist within our midst. The demand for better wages echo the sentiments of countless Guyanese who have long endured the harsh realities of economic hardship. It is a sobering indictment of a system that has failed to prioritize the well-being of its citizens, particularly those who dedicate their lives to shaping the future of our nation. While we acknowledge recent strides in Guyana's economic landscape,
Difficulty with Jurita's internet.
in the realm of public service, where a meager 6.5% increase in salary stands in a stark contrast to the soaring cost of living being experienced. As representatives of the Alliance for Change, we stand steadfast in our commitment to the principles and equality. Benefits of economic growth are not equitably among all Guyanese. This necessitates a fundamental reevaluation of our current salary structure, both within the public and private sector, to ensure that no individual is left behind in the pursuit of progress. Further, we must address the troubling trajectory of recent policy decisions, such as the importation of labor from country Bangladesh. This regressive approach not only undermines the potential of our local workforce, but also raises legitimate concerns regarding its underlying motives. We refuse to stand by idly as our own people are overlooked in favor of political interests of the PPP. Instead, we call for policy that incentivize the return of Guyanese talents from the diaspora, thereby harnessing forward our development agenda. The Alliance to Change stands in solidarity with all those who champion the cause of economic justice. Together, let us raise our voices in unison and demand a future where opportunity knows no bounds and prosperity is within the reach.
Thank you much, Jurita. Jurita, I will ask you to share those notes because we were getting you. I think your bandwidth was a bit low, so we're getting a bit breakup. So you'll have to share that notes with us, and we can share it to the media. I will now. I want to welcome also our chairman of the Alliance for Change, Cathy Yu. She's here with us. Cathy, welcome. I will now invite the media for questions. Thank you. Are you guys hearing me? I'm looking for the claim. Divine, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon. This is Davina Bhagat with Kaitra News. Mr. Ramsar, I would just like some clarity on your comments regarding the Natural Resources Sectorial Committee meeting from this morning. You said you had some questions, but they could not be answered because the minister was not there. Can you confirm that? And you said that Exxon and EPA were making, they were making constant excuses. Can you say what were the excuses provided to the committee for them not being able to attend?
Thank you, Davina. Look, they have not put no excuse. They have not put no reasons on the letter, and that is what is sticking us. They keep writing at a later date, no specific date, but no later date. That's what coming from EPA. The one on Exxon, there's no reason giving. They just generally say that there's no they can't meet at this moment or this time. We are going to send to you guys the letters what they are responding to us with. Kathy was also there in this meeting, and she, we're raising our concern on this matter, and it's getting really out of hand. I mean, this is a committee that is a serious thing, and I said this morning in the meeting, this is not a cake shop, and we can't operate in the manner that we're operating. People have to respect Parliament. It is the highest office on this land, so we have to be serious on the business, and this is adding towards the poor governance of this country. We are heading in a state of every sector. There's problems. Well, Mr. Kamrat just mentioned the other security committee that is now meeting. They only met once, elected chairman, and they never met again. The other committees, if you notice in the PSC also, it's the same thing. There's a number of meetings that they're missing. So we very, very much, Davina, I don't know if I missed any part of your question.
Yes, I was asking about the minister. Did you say he was not there today?
Right. He's also absent in the meeting. It was given an excuse, but there's no reason again for his absence. So therefore, the question that we got queued up cannot be answered.
Okay. Can Mr. Ramjitan say what would be the next move legally?
I think probably he's probably get knocked out.
On as if I was on. Look, under Standing Order 86, we have a situation whereby people who the committee members want to come to give evidence, they can summon them. They can call for their papers, and they can call for their also records and documents, and they are to give evidence in accordance with the Legislative Bodies Evidence Act, whereby they can be forced to answer questions. This is like the congressional committees of America, where Exxon, if it is called to come and give some evidence, must come to the congressional committee to give evidence and answer questions. And it could be made public. And then also we can scrutinize these people's documents, papers, and records. Now, that is the law of Guyana and the law of the Parliament. And what we notice happening is that this law is being violated by the people, Exxon and whosoever else, indicating, oh, we want postponements as to when we can come, postponements as to when we can come, and that kind of thing. And even the minister, who I think is supposed to be one of the vice chair of the committee, or a chairperson, he too apparently being absent. So the work of the committee in relation to scrutinizing and making accountable these companies and even persons are not getting done because of the fact of their absence. And so it is important that we really cannot allow this situation to happen. At least the Natural Resources Committee has been meeting. In the case of my parliamentary committee on security, they named the chairperson, they named the members, and we have never had back another meeting. So we can't call the commissioner of police, we can't call any of the crime chief to testify there as to what is happening to crime. We can't scrutinize them, we can't ask them any question. And they have literally taken away that from us. These are powerful committees where we can get answers to as to what's happening to crime. Question the crime statistics, question the policy and the administration, why this person wasn't promoted, why that was promoted, and so on. Nothing we can do. But under the coalition government, they used to cross-examine for long, long hours about firearm license. You can't do nothing now. But they're making all kind of nasty allegations and all of that. So this is the very reprehensible conduct we now have in that Natural Resource Committee, and also the Security Committee of the Parliamentary of Parliament. So it is very, very reprehensible a thing. And I want reporters to understand that, because we have the reporters too must ask the questions of the government. Why is this thing not happening? Why is it they got something to hide? You don't want to be accountable? You don't want to be scrutinized? What is it that you want to hide? Because these are the committees that could get all the answers.
If this ever used to happen on the coalition compared to what is happening now?
They demanded that Silal Prasad, the Gladwin Samuels, and Gentle come there to answer all kind of questions. And Mr. Gill and all of the members from the opposition then, they asked hours and hours of questions concerning every aspect of public security, from the Kanu, from the everything, and all the records in the Hansard, because these public security subcommittees, as it were, or committees, they got to get the Hansard too. So you could see. But now what we got? Nothing. Nothing. And this is the autocracy and the despotism that I speak about when we talk about how the governance has gone completely. All they're concerned about is elections.
Yes, please go ahead, Kathy. Please go ahead. And then we can bring in Trainer Williams.
That the committee, through the clerk of the committee, actually wrote the request to meet with Exxon to the Prime Minister, the office of the Prime Minister, because it is that office that, in terms of protocol, we have been told, would arrange and liaise with Exxon. We did inquire today and request that the clerk of the National Assembly, Mr. Isaacs, request from the office of the Prime Minister copies of the correspondence that we assume would have been sent to Exxon. As a member of the committee, we know that we have been sending letters since November of last year. So we're going over on to 6 months. And of course, what has been told is that although we request that if you can't make the proposed date, please recommend a date, the subsequent correspondence just says we are unable to attend. So the correspondence that the committee would have sent would have gone to Permanent Secretary, Mr. Alfred King, in the office of the Prime Minister, and then the request to the EPA would have gone to Mr. Jocelyn Mackenzie. And of course, he's in the Ministry of Natural Resources. So I just wanted to clarify that. And of course, as Mr. Ramjatan has said, the Evidence Act allows us to take this up a notch. The first step would be the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Clerk of the National Assembly, Mr. Isaacs, writing the two organizations next week. And we have asked that we hope to have a response before the next statutory meeting, which is in 2 weeks. And if not, then we will certainly go under the Evidence Act and summons the representatives to speak with the committee. This is wholly unacceptable. And of course, it impacts on we're supposed to be a democracy upholding principles of transparency and accountability. And this is beyond, unacceptable. Thank you.
Kathy, for the intervention. Davina, let me ask Trina Williams to come in first, and then if you have a follow-up, you can do that. Trina?
Okay, good afternoon, Trina Williams, Ghana Chronicle. I have 3 questions for Mr. Ramjatan. My first question is, Mr. Ramjatan, there has been some, as the chairman of the PNC would put it, banter within the party since Roydale Ford launched his campaign. Since you and the current leader, Norton, mentioned that a coalition between the APNU and AFC is still up for discussion, if Norton was to be replaced as leader, would this affect future plans? And are you willing to support another member of the PNC if they win leadership in the upcoming Congress? I'll ask my 2 other questions after that.
We will have to make the decision at our national conference or at a national conference as to coalition and the arrangements for coalition. We'll be having our national conference in June this year. That question may come up, it may not come up, it may wait until when elections is around. At this stage, yes, we are a parliamentary coalition, and whoever is the presidential, the leader of the party, we will certainly start our negotiations, and hopefully that the negotiations is going to start come to fruition. If it doesn't come to fruition, well, we go singularly. And that is the way we will operate. It will be most democratic on both sides, that is the APNU side and the AFC side. But we will respect whosoever we decide on as being thereafter the presidential candidate and so many other things. And I believe, and this I speak personally, I believe together we will be stronger. And I will certainly support a coalition which will be with any sort of leader, whether it be Roysdale, whether it be Norbury Norton, or whether it be a consensual candidate, other than the 2 of them.
Okay, this brings me to my second question. There have been reports that many of your party members are migrating to the PNC, including senior persons, because they believe the party cannot stand on its own. Could you say if this is true and whether the party believes it is still formidable? It is still a formidable force?
Oh yeah, the party is extremely formidable and strong, Trina. It is extremely strong. That is why every conference, press conference that Jagdev has, he got to utter something about Ramjatan or David Patterson or the AFC or Cathy Hughes or Wannabe. If we didn't have the impact that we have, he would not have been uttering a word. And as a matter of fact, I'm getting the impression now they want to use the Barbies program. They want to exclude it from the air right now. And they're doing all kinds of machinations to drive us off the Barbies on the Move program of the Alliance for Change. And don't ever feel that anybody's moving away to the PNC or whatever. That's the manufactured device and very deviousness of Jagdeo in wanting to propagandize that. Okay? The AFC maintains its strongholds and maintains itself as a party to be reckoned with. And that is why all the time they probably will get even reporters asking questions as to our solidity and prominence and significance.
So you're refuting the claim that many of your party members are migrating to the PNC?
I am refuting that claim. Yes, that is quite true.
Okay. And finally, I want you to comment on the recent letter that we would have seen from former AFC parliamentarian Trevor Williams, and him blaming the AFC for the um, security sector being allegedly corrupt, and the current government of the day having to work to rebuild it.
Well, that is the biggest joke I have heard. And by the way, Trevor Williams resigned, I think, about 2 years ago from the party. Okay? Because he had certain personal reasons why. And to get him, and this is where the impact of the AFC is, because there it is that you would have Chronicle and the PPP would want people like Trevor Williams, who you haven't heard from for a long time, all of a sudden making these allegations. I rather suspect that there are other reasons that he has been compromised by to do what he did. But we all know that under the Alliance for Change APNU coalition, so much was done for security. Everybody in this country, let me tell you, would say that the security of this country and the professionalism of the police force rose to its highest levels in the coalition government. But it has been politicized, it has been totally corrupted, and that is why we have what we have today. And the PPP is going to get people like the Trevor Williams and so on. I hope that you are not related to him, because I don't want to get too scalding here. But whatever it is, they're going to get those kinds of people to do their propaganda work. That is what modern economics, Barajagde was trained in, propaganda.
Okay, and
Ricky,
allow me to add.
Yeah, David.
Anyone says the data speaks for itself, and that is what you should be used to drive your analysis. We have more fires now than any time, I think, any time in the history of this country, almost every 2 days, and even sadly so, more deaths caused by fires. Every single day we have a murder. Every single day somebody is killed by sadly loses their life by dangerous driving. Robberies are of the largest drug buses in the history of this country, and probably most of the world has happened in the last 4 years.
Davina?
I just have two brief follow-up to what was just said.
Wait.
One,
I will
Mr.
come back.
Ramjitan,
I will come back.
as it relates to your statements that the public, the security sector had rose to highest levels under the AFC, would you consider that admitting 39 gun licenses in 2020 without approval from the board would constitute it as raising it to highest levels? And secondly, Ms. Joretta, could you reference what exactly you're using as reference to Guyana's corruption rank? Thank you. That's all for me.
Probably have instructed you to do. In any event, Trina, I am going to tell you.
Mr. Ramjitan, nobody has instructed me to do anything.
All right,
I'm
well,
simply
fine.
asking questions.
All right. Well, I am answering the question. The board did not meet for the entire year after that COVID happened. And these 39 persons were entitled to their firearm. And the legal opinion at the time was given by the now chairman of the Elections Commission that with the approval of both the commissioner and the commander of the division, it should be granted. And I granted them as a result of that legal opinion that was there, and also because the board was not meeting. And the board took about a whole year. What you do in relation to that, you grant them. And I did grant them. And that explanation is there for everybody. It is not as if there was any corruption at all. And all the files are there that could speak to that. And all those persons who got were persons that deserve it. So please don't come and say that there is any corruption in the firearm license and all of that. The commissioner at the time and the commander of the division recommended them. It was supposed to go to a non-existent board now because the board was not meeting. And I decided that fine, that should be granted because the commissioner and the commander granted it. In relation to the statistics, I used to give the statistics of crime on a weekly basis. I don't know if the statistics of crimes are being given to you, Trina, now on a weekly basis. All aggravated robberies, robberies of the varieties, murders, manslaughters, rapes, everything. I don't know if you're getting it because I used to leave it also with the opposition then. We are now the opposition. We don't get anything. We're not even getting the Parliamentary Security Committee. What more do you want if they're blocking us from even scrutinizing these things or calling the Commissioner of Police to talk about firearm license and so on? We can't even talk about it now. And I don't know if the Firearm License Board is functioning. And I don't hear you asking them anything about that. Thank you very much.
As a minister of government, you have the power to issue license also. I want to make that clear. And also, right. I know that you want to be good governance and you want to be transparent and you allow the board to function. In addition to that too, the corruption that they're talking about, they're in power, they have the stats there, they have the evidence, they can publish it. So further if they want. Davina, I know you were holding a while. Can you please go ahead?
Yes, thank you. I'd like Mr. Ramjitan to say whether he agrees with the AG that government should decide on the protection Guyana receives from an oil spill and not the court. And
the protection that what?
Oil spills. Yes, Mr. Nandalal said that it is it is government that should decide on what protection the country receives from an oil spill, not the court. I want to know if you agree with that. And for Mr. Patterson, can you share your thoughts on the delays to the Wales gas project and the contractor moving to court, and also the power purchase agreement that we are to sign for the purchase of 36 megawatts of electricity?
Thank you.
Davina, look, it is shameless what I am hearing from the Attorney General. And it is obvious there is an incestuous relationship now between Exxon and the government of Guyana. It is not a professional arm's-length relationship. And so you would have Mr. Nandalal, out of all sense and rationality, coming to a conclusion that the courts must not have a say. These things are governed by laws and the Constitution. And it is then incumbent that if you, as a third party, a civic society member, who is not a busybody, but a person who got locus standi to go to court and to ask the court for its opinion, and that you as Attorney General can give your opinion. But when the court rules, you can't go and say that the court should not be doing this, ruling on that issue. It is a question of law. Isn't it the statutes that govern this oil and gas arena? And the contract, which is also part of something that is amenable to the law. So when he says that the Sandil Kisoon, honorable judge, does not have the power and the government has the power, it shows the deepening autocracy of this government. It's despotism. It wants to be, what common word I use, control freaks in even these matters, which a court can rule. I hope that he carries it right up. I think he's gone to the CCJ. But it is crazy how they can say that it is government's prerogative and not the prerogative of another branch of government.
Let me before David, before you answer, last week, Davina and all the folks here, you recall, I said to mark that time on the calendar of last week. Didn't I warn you guys that this is exactly what's being orchestrated here with this new oil legislation, is to override Judge Kisoon's ruling. It's all part of this is where it's ending up. What he's saying in terms of the government, he's saying that the government should have the authority over the judicial branch. And that's exactly what the legislation will do. The legislation will pass in Parliament because they have the numbers, and that will be a government legislation. And so that's where this is all going. Anybody should be able to read through the lines. And I warned you folks last week. I said, mark my word, this is where all of this is heading. So he didn't make that comment very lightly. He's preparing the country to accept what that new oil legislation will be. That's what he's doing.
And let me start with the Wales Gas Ashore project. Typical PPP, blaming others for their failure. Typical PPP, the project is now, the Vice President took a lot of pains to try and convince people that the project is still on stream. I don't know how you could still be on stream. Sorry, are you hearing me now? Okay, yes. Right, yeah, my apology. Right, so the Vice President took a lot of time out yesterday. Someone sent me the clip on the gas ashore to try to blame shift the blame from their poor management, their poor planning, their poor everything, their lack of detail. He blames Geico for being late. He blames Exxon for the project being late. He blames Gisby for the project now being late. But I was disappointed. No reporter asked him how were these companies selected. It wasn't public tenders. There was no tender out, public tender. Please come and build the MOF. Come and build the laydown. There's no problem. They were all selected by the government through whatever method they want, not publicly. And then when they underperform, he's now blaming. And then and then he now claims to say that that the project will be finished by April. Poppycock. Poppycock. You and once again, as I was answering to Miss Williams, the facts speaks for themselves. Name anyone in any project in the history of the PPP from 1992 to now that has ever been completed when they on time. Cemetery Road is still going, not completed. Conversation 3 is still going, not completed. The airport, they took it back over, it's not completed. You mean Marriott? I mean, the last time they tried to do a power station is in 2015, end of 2015, Freedom Hoop. We had to complete it, and that took a year after thing. They took the generators that we bought in Garden Eden, it took them 2 years to complete it. So the idea of us of the project being on time and will be completed by 2025, poppycock. And you know what? They now realize how serious, and this is something, Divina, which we have to look for. And I warned, just like Vince, I told you about when I get to GPL, I remind you. But what is happening? And I was in candid discussions with persons involved in the project. I don't want to call their names because it's very vindictive government. And they were saying to me that they are trying to use substandard equipment. This is particularly in line with the transmission and distribution network. I mean, obviously, they're trying to rush. The quality equipment takes 18 months, a year to be built. That's why they're trying to find substitutes because they know that an election is coming up in sometime in 2025, if then or not, if not before. And they know that they will be judged on their record. And they know they have an abysmal record. So therefore, what they're trying to do is say that they have a win. A mile of falls, which they promised they would have done in 5 years, is a non-starter. The gas ashore, which they promised to be done, is a non-starter. The sugar estates, which they promised as a thing to be reopened, they've tried with one single, not sugar estate, one single one rose all, and that is sputtering. There's pictures all over social media with dwarf canes being cut, trying to make their target. They won't even achieve their target. So they have one of the worst project implementation completion rate in the Western Hemisphere. So I take no credence whatsoever. I mean, I take it not only his word about the project only being 3 months and it'll be finished in April, not only with a pinch of salt, it's a bucket of salt and a bucket of lard, and I wash that down with some swank because it's impossible. And everyone knows it, you know, I mean, every single person in this country knows that what he's saying is not true. But obviously, the time will tell. Exxon, excuse me there, Vince. I made the point before. Exxon has set out that they will complete their end by the end of 2024. They have been consistent with their timelines. They have always set out to be a 2-year project implementation period. However, so I'm not doubting their timelines. I mean, people have to be worried and concerned about is that if they do complete, we will have a pipeline. I know Jack Dale said, oh, they'll just fill it with nitrogen or something like that. But we will be paying for a pipeline, $55 million in 2025, without getting any gas, without no use to it whatsoever. The danger of that, there are people working. I mean, it's an active work site. People be working around these pipelines that have been completed, filled with nitrogen, filled with whatever it is that even the natural gas, that is a danger. Who is responsible for the year when the project is handed over by Exxon at the end of December 2024? Who is responsible from the entire year while they're waiting for the rest of the project to catch up for? Is it Exxon? Is it the government of Guyana? And this is one comes back to your initial question, Davina, to Mr. Ramjatan about insurance. Is this project also covered under that very, very limited $2 billion insurance, or is this project has a separate insurance component to it? Since this is totally, even though they're related, because gas comes from the gas field, we do think that it should be a separate insurance and doesn't fall under, unless they put the unlimited liability over the entire oil and gas operation, that will do. If not, it shouldn't fall under the $2 billion, because you are giving, Exxon is bringing a dangerous substance to shore, handing it over to a government and a group who have not been able to manage a cake shop. And they cannot simply walk away and say, "Oh, we handed this to the government." So that is another area of concern that to the people. But in summary, there's no way that project will be. And Vince could tell you how project management goes. You have a 3-month delay, and it's a knock-on effect. It's a knock-on effect. I do suspect as well, though more respect to what he said, that there's more than just simply time that the contractors are claiming for. More, he wants to say though that they're claiming for additional time. No, they're also claiming for technical challenges. Before I answer, see, Vince wants to say something before I go on to the GPL barge, the infamous
Yeah.
barge. Vince would like to say
On
something.
the GT, just to add to what you said there, David, you were absolutely correct. And I was going to say the same thing. You know, right now we're reading and hearing about a $90 million overrun on cost. And 3 or 6 months, I've read 6 months, but now I'm hearing it's 3 months on schedule delay. That costs money. We're now hearing about the 90 and the 3 months. Even though it's scheduled, every single day delay costs you money. So the question that needs to be asked about them is what are the expected additional cost liabilities in terms of overrun and schedule costs, and where will that money be coming from? Where will that money be coming from? And the other thing about you, I mean, it's clear case of lack of leadership. There's no leadership. When you hear the vice president, he blames everybody else. As soon as anything happens, he blames everybody else. Normally, a good leader would to say that the buck stops here. But to him, the buck stops everywhere. When this guy could go as far as to blame the coalition for the Skeldon fiasco. I mean, what else? What more evidence do you want? When this guy can go as far as to blame in terms of the audit, the overcharge of $214 million for that audit. You see how quick he threw everybody else under the bus and suspended the poor employee for a week or 2 weeks. It's nothing about him when something goes wrong, but he wants to take credit for everything that goes right. So that's what we're dealing with here. But on the energy project, I agree with David. This here is this is not the end of it, because what happens when you start a project and you start getting a schedule delay and cost delay up front, it's gonna continue and it's gonna escalate further down into the project. So this is not the end of it. It's gonna start skyrocketing. And the reason is because your activities are rolling up on each other. Your initial activity, the subsequent activities are dependent on the first activity. So it's impacting those already activities that you're delaying, and it's costing you money. It's gonna have a rollover impact on the subsequent activities. So it's gonna be a domino effect that is gonna increase. And I totally agree with David. You're not gonna see no 3 months delay if you at the start of a project. If you get that kind of a delay, expect a whole bunch more to come.
Yes. Davina, on your question of the barge from, I think is Car Power Ship or something like that, you know what I mean, which is a Turkish company. I must thank the vice president. He was very forthright in letting us know about who the company is, which is very unusual to him, but we must thank. I warned this country, I warned everyone that as soon as that we will be spending some emergency funding, which will cost taxpayers millions of dollars. If I got his figures that he quoted yesterday correctly. And I listened to it, and what I got, I think that we are paying this company 8 cents per megawatt. That's what he said. For supply of the power, 36 megawatts, operations and maintenance. Now that 8 cents and and the GPL will be supplying the fuel for this operation. What the vice president is skillful at is throwing out a number like he me challenging me on a mile of fall, but he would never challenge me, nor would he bring up a motion to parliament where the facts can be laid there for anybody to see. Which I've already laid my figures in parliament, Davina, just as a matter of on this side, where I got the 30 cents for a mile of fall. It's already in the parliament. It's already there. The speaker, as you know, was not very neutral, I could say that, and he would have ensured that it was struck off for the Hansard if I said anything that was untruth and I couldn't back up by data. It's there in the Hansard. So Jagio can talk from now until the cows come home about that project. It was and remains upon this scheme, the Mile of Falls, under the form of the economic model in which they had. Anyway, back to this barge. So what he didn't tell you is how much it will cost. He said 8 cents. We're paying this company for 2 years. 2024, it'll be here till 2026 April. Minimum, I guarantee it'll be here for much longer. At 8 cents a megawatt, and yes, a megawatt. I thought it was well. Let me give you the two scenarios. I assume it is 8 US cents per megawatt for the contract that the company is. And Davina, you could correct me because you were there. I heard you were there at the press conference, but I listened to it. At 8 cents a megawatt, plus if the government of Guyana, which they are, will be supplying the HFO, which I'm assuming is being run off of HFO. The current price of, which is heavy fuel oil, the current price of heavy fuel oil is 90 US cents per barrel. So in other words, what to produce and to that contract and the supply only we leaving out GPL's administrative cost. It works out to $45 a megawatt. $45 a megawatt. We are paying, I think, $28 a megawatt per. That's what the citizens are paying for residential at the moment. And then if you add in GPL costs, and you can quote me on these figures, because I know how we asked where Patterson get it, but I double checked them with several experts this last evening, and it ended up to $45.08 per megawatt. And when you add in GPL's costs, administrative overhead, maintenance, and those things like that, which GPL has to add in to every megawatt produced, we will end up, the cost for the country will be close to 54 Guyana dollars per megawatt. Obviously, I mean, and that is assuming that they've been above board with everything. Obviously, which is way more than all the old equipment that he claims that we have, way more to produce. Obviously, he did not tell us about the commissioning fees. There's a fee for a finder, somebody I'm sure very well related to the current government he will be getting a commissioning fee, probably monthly or a lump sum. He hasn't told us all of those acquisition costs. He hasn't included the cost for the works at Everton. He decided going to Everton, I don't know if there's any wharf or anything like that. So because of their poor planning, because of their poor maintenance, we arrived at this position that we have here now. And obviously, as I said, of course, what they do, they like these emergencies. They like these emergencies so they can because everyone is desperate for power. So they have now taken that opportunity now to further raid our consolidated fund. And they will look you straight in the face to say it, though they're doing it for your benefit. But no, PvP, you're not doing it for your benefit. If you had followed the plan that we had left there, we'd have never been there. You mean and this 36 megawatts, Davina, they will need a bit, they will need more because the sets that they have under them, hello? Sharon? Yeah, the sets that they have under them are breaking down rapidly. Kingston 1 now has 3 sets down. Garden Eden sets will soon be done because they can't take them offline to do any maintenance. So we this here should just, this is just a drop in the ocean, an expensive drop in the ocean based on poor management. And all of these extra costs that you see have to be added on to the gas to shore project because the money for the containers has to be added on to the gas to shore project. This money here for this project has to be added on the gas to shore because had they planned correctly and did it as we had it, the gas to shore project would have been up and running long ago. No need for these interventions. Thank you.
We just went over an hour of our press conference. I think there's no other questions. I would like to thank you guys. Thank you, John.
Ricky, quickly, because
Okay.
apparently Joretta left or something, but there was a question about where that number
Yes,
of
of course,
40
yes. Yeah,
that came from Transparency International. It came from Transparency International.
Yes, thanks, Vince. I was asking Joretta, but I think Trina Williams, she left.
Locally, and I think it's important to note that a lot of times when you see data coming that doesn't favor the PP government, their strategy is to attack the source. If things coming on human rights that is not to their favor, they're gonna attack the source. So these people don't like us and so forth. These are international companies that gather data for countries throughout the world. This is not something that is being gathered locally or in the region. And in Transparency International, these are universally acceptable sources when it comes to data on economics, when it comes to crime, law enforcement, and so forth throughout the length and breadth of not just Guyana, but the entire world. So I would never give data without having a source, and that's very, very much readily available for any reporter, journalist that is interested in going and doing some fact finding. And that's why I started off by saying I was hoping persons would actually do the research before they come with these questions, because anybody could go out there and make allegations that, oh, well, this was corrupt under this government, but it's not now. But when you go to the actual data now, you will see that there's vast difference with the numbers that are being presented. So let us be more steadfast in the data aspect, how we bring questions to the fore and so forth. That's all I'm asking, because otherwise to that we're just going to be looking for sensational headlines as opposed to factual headlines, and I think that's what we need to avoid as a country altogether.
Ask for what's our source of our question to say that it was corrupt. But it's okay. I don't want to pull a critics on it, but I want to thank you guys very much. It's been a wonderful press conference, and we want to thank our General Secretary for hosting us. He's really patiently looking at something. I don't know what is it. So thank you very much, guys. Have a good evening.